The African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks. KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised.
KBLA Talk 1580. Dominic DePrima here, and I'm pleased to be back with you. Please don't forget to check in with us. We're YouTubing right now, KBLA 1580. I'm actually streaming. See my cute Africa shirt from the Black-owned entrepreneur over there in South Africa, Johannesburg. And, of course, all of the social media, KBLA 1580, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And you can find me at DePrima Radio, DIPRIMA. Please like, follow, comment, get your smart ass on. It's all good. Happy to be back. Happy to have a special guest for what I call our deep dive, our daily deep dive, the person or persons of interest. This will be the first time I get to talk on the radio with this activist of more than 4 decades. He's an organizer for Newark Communities for Accountable Policing. He's an actor, a poet, he's got 2 volumes of poetry in the pipeline. Also a producer of a weekly hip-hop talk radio show called All Politics is Local, based out of Rutgers University. Zayid Muhammad, welcome.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm glad to finally connect with you. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, indeed. Newark to Leimert Park, Um, well, we could do a whole show on that, but we won't. Um, you got a lot of things on your resume, and I guess probably people most know you for Who Killed Malcolm X, the Netflix documentary. But let's talk a little bit about, yeah, well, I was like, you just don't know. People most know me for like a little clip from the radio that Tupac decided to put on the Machiavelli album. No matter what else I do in the world,
I'll
that's what
take
they
that.
know. That's what they know me for. So tell me why you said when I said that about the Netflix doc.
Well, I'll tell you, and it comes. And first, I want to say just thank you for opening the door and opening your mic up just to share, and we can go as deep a dive as ever you want on whatever subject you want to talk about. And I'm just humble for the consideration. I was the filmmakers and the film product was something well intended, but it was in the end a commercial venture with commercial baggage. And there were certain things that I was trying to particularly convey to them about that story that they simply just didn't know how to handle, right? And it's something that I would expect you to appreciate in a very personal way, because there are two stories when it comes to Malcolm's legacy in Newark, New Jersey. There is the haunting story of those black hands that were on those triggers on February 21st, 1965. That did come out of Newark. That's real. That did happen, right? But then there's a second story, because Malcolm's legacy was so impactful on the young people of that generation, particularly on your father, Amiri Baraka, right? And under Amiri's leadership, what Amiri brought to Newark, picking up Malcolm's line, particularly his political line, as you could extrapolate that from his Ballad of the Bullet, and his cultural line, the notion of cultural revolution, right? Amiri made Newark one of the spaces to look at and come to on the heels of an epic uprising in 1967 and the call for Black Power, right? And that's the story that I really wanted to convey, and they just really did not know how to handle that, right? And there's a side to me that there's a young filmmaker who I'm trying to reconnect with us. We need to make our own film, right? And get that right.
Yeah.
To the filmmaker's credit, it did finally embarrass in such a way the state officials in the state of New York to actually exonerate the two men who were wrongly convicted of Malcolm's killing. But that's an old story. They made it seem new. It needed a fresh breath, I guess, for those brothers' sake. But it's an old story, and it was presented as something new when really it wasn't. I think the scholars that they should have focused on, they didn't focus enough on. And, so it had its limitations, but it had its impact too.
So you really give that documentary credit for making lawmakers move or officials move to finally exonerate those guys?
And I say that guardedly.
Right.
And why do I say that? I have roots in the Black Panther Party in New York State, locked up more political prisoners from the Black Panther Party than any state in the country. And while they exonerated and have offered up considerable sums of damages to these brothers who they wrongly convicted, that didn't happen for any of the young men and women who were in the Black Panther Party who also picked up Malcolm's line. That didn't happen for them, right? So I'm not, the New York state legal apparatus, New York City legal apparatus doesn't get a pass for that one cleanup, one exceptional cleanup job that they did, because that's the exception to the rule of how they get down. Right. So I'm saying that with even with that with a grain of salt. But the impact of the film did bring attention to the whole question, and it was rightfully embarrassing for them, as it should have been.
Talking with Zayid Muhammad, and when we come forward, we're going to talk. I don't want to forget to ask you which are the scholars you think that they should have focused on that they did not. But we do have a lot to talk about. You're welcome into the conversation. 800-920-1580. You know where you are. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Have you faced discrimination in Los Angeles? The City of LA Civil Rights Department can help. They investigate private sector discrimination in LA City in commerce, education, employment, and housing. If you're facing discrimination, submit a complaint online for free at laisforeveryone.com. That's laisforeveryone.com or call 213-978-1845.
Don't miss July 4th savings now at Lowe's. Freshen up your home with buy one, get one 50% off on select interior and exterior paints and exterior stains via Lowe's gift card rebate. And get gardening with savings on Stay Green soil. Right now, buy 3 bags for just $10. Lowe's knows July 4th savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 7/5. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, and selection varies by location. While supplies last. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details.
She's so smooth. So I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
The $5 cravings box is back at Taco Bell, and it's the real thing. We're talking a chalupa supreme, a cheesy, beefy 5-layer burrito, a crunchy taco, cinnamon twist, and a medium drink, all for just $5. That's a lot of food for not a lot of dollars. In other words, a wise business deal, like greeting clients with a firm handshake and a delicious 3-course meal. That's only $5. Order your $5 cravings box on the Taco Bell app today. At limited participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last. Contact local store for price and participation which vary. Drinks exclude freezes. Price excludes tax.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I do appreciate you talking with Zayid Muhammad, an activist, a poet, and actor. And they call you Baba Zayid Muhammad. Baba, as you point out, means father in Yoruba and a lot of other places, other languages as well. And lots of folks, it's become sort of popular to be Baba. I generally don't call people Baba unless they're my actual father, but that's kind of like your nickname, right? Mr. Muhammad, are you there? Oh, yeah, he's there. He's laughing. Okay.
No.
You on? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I still can you hear me.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. So we got a situation here locally. We always seem to have a situation between our sheriff's department and our police department. We got a protest today, actually, at 5 o'clock at the Winco Foods in Lancaster, California, calling for the termination of this deputy, the removal of Captain John Lacrivian, and changes to the customer treatment policies after a black woman was treated terribly, thrown to the ground in Lancaster while trying to film her husband being unjustly arrested. And I say all that to say this is an area where you've done a lot of work yourself.
Very full.
And
my hands are very full with that. Yes.
Yeah, and you're part of the civilian oversight for police.
No. I want to clarify that.
Okay.
I'm the organizer for a body that has serves as an umbrella organization for a number of the social justice organizations that are to be represented on Newark's Civilian Review Board. Newark has the first Civilian Review Board in the state of New Jersey, and we're in a battle now legislatively to have the authorities that we originally, wanted to work with made law, so it can be a Civilian Review Board that has some teeth.
Yeah, because I remember when the mayor.
Long fight.
I remember when the mayor was talking about first put that forth, and in the city first put that forth. Then it's been blocked. It's been resisted. Just even the idea of having a civilian police review board with actual clout. And it's something
drives the police nuts everywhere.
yeah, we've been struggling with it here in Los Angeles. So, share your insights about how that process, what happened with it, and where you are with it in Newark.
Well, first, let me just give you go back to your area. You're in Los Angeles, but we should shout out a recent development that took place in Oakland, where their city council just last week voted to have the internal affairs arm of the Oakland police shifted to their civilian oversight board. And that might not seem like much, but when it comes to the question of police accountability, or the first place that should happen, and it's the first place where there is, when they want to find a bogus way to arrest you, they charge you with obstruction of justice. When police obstruct the justice of police accountability, the first space that they do that overwhelmingly is internal affairs. They simply do not police themselves. So, and Oakland has been in this city under a federal consent decree for 20 years, and it took that long for them just to make this particular move. It's a significant move, right? But it took 20 years. So the first thing I would say to anybody trying to figure out how to make sense out of this particular question is that, like our struggle is protracted, something that requires a commitment and long vision and long-standing commitment, this is one of those issues that is very, very has very stubborn, intractable dimensions because of the role that the police have historically been built to be in our community, and that is to be an occupying force, that is to be to contain our people's movement and protect and serve as something for somebody else. It has never meant that for our community. We need to be clear about that. So those are kind of things that don't happen overnight when we see victories. When we see victories more often than not, they are more the exception to the rule than they are the rule. But the last couple of years, I mean, with George Floyd and some of those prominent cases that have produced epic demonstration that we haven't seen in a long time, are spaces that we need to claim and organize around and build in a very intentional way beyond just the protest for very particular things like what just happened in Oakland. So, that's the first thing I would say to anybody.
I also want to highlight that too, because it does seem small, but it's huge. Do you know if that's happened anywhere else? I've never heard of that happening, where a civilian oversight takes over internal affairs. Internal affairs is the police investigating themselves, which is what we always complain about, but which is generally how it goes down. And I can't believe that happened without, I'm sure there's going to be an appeal, and they're going to try to overturn it. I don't see that just being like, okay,
Yeah, it's still sad. Like I said, they had been under federal oversight for 20 years, and they're just getting to that.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but nevertheless, because of so many people that we lose, and so many people who are hurting from these kind of things, we have to press on. We have to press on and dare to be the agents of change that we want to see. And believe that there's going to come a time when the work that we do and the sacrifices that we make and the commitments that we make do ultimately come to make some difference. I mean, we come from a body of ancestors who had to toil for some almost 300 years under slave labor, not knowing whenever their descendants would be free. They never gave up, so under no circumstances can we. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but it requires us to dig in, in the trenches and do what we got to do.
So where would you say you are now with Newark and the civilian oversight there?
Well, when the mayor first put our civilian review board together, it had several key components. The first was it had subpoena authority. Right. Second is that it had the capacity to do independent and concurrent investigations, meaning that like any major investigative arm of the state, be it local, federal, or state, it can do an investigation at the same time any other investigation is taking place, i.e., for example, an internal affairs investigation at the same time. It had a social justice component in that. Several seats of the CCRB were built around organizations that had developed and established social justice character to make sure that the process and the players represented transparency and integrity. And then finally, it had a discipline matrix that police leadership had to be accountable to. Right, and we lost in court at the New Jersey Supreme Court, but they made a concession that said if the legislature comes back with a law that gives the city of Newark and any other desired city those same components of authority, then we could have it. So that's where that is now. And at the same time, we're in the last days of a consent decree. And there's a real question as to whether or not we think the consent decree should be continued. I think we should, even though there has been some movement in terms of the character and quality of some of the policing. We had a couple of years ago, 2020, without Newark police firing a shot, right, in any of their work.
Wow.
On January 1st of that New Year's night itself, they actually killed a young man in a very bad situation, and the officer that did the killing had a bad track record and shouldn't have even been on the force. So for all of the good that does happen, there's a lot that still needs to happen. One of the things that's important, and one of the important barometers of whether or not something like that should continue, is whether or not the community trusts their police. Right? Trust. Right?
Sorry for laughing, but
I would dare say that all the good that we've done and all the hell that we've raised and all the concessions that we've gained, and, the community still does not trust their police.
Well, it's hard to trust, folks that keep killing your loved ones. I mean, that's why I'm laughing. Like, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, Mr. Muhammad, is these folks are always like talking about, well, it's usually law enforcement talking about we're building trust with community. To me, it's like we need to build policies, because you got to get to the policies before you get to the trust. Like, my problem isn't that I don't trust you. My problem is that you keep killing people in the community.
That's right. You make it impossible for me to trust you.
Yeah, why would I? I'd have to be an idiot. So really what you want me to do is trust you even though you're not trustworthy.
Well, one of the things that is on the matter of policy, several things that we can say about Newark that is positive, that merits attention, and is getting some attention, is that there's law enforcement, and then there's this broader notion of what we call public safety.
Right.
And public safety, should have the public. Okay, and out of the epic storm of protests that was the summer of 2020, came this call to, quote, defund the police, right? And Newark, for all of its limitations, took a small percentage of its police budget and invested into community-based violence intervention, right? And that is the use of community-based programming to address violent behavior at its source, and with folks who have been formally justice impacted.
Right. We call that like Care First. LA has that. Yeah. We're fighting for it, I should say. We won it, and we're still fighting, even though we won. But yeah.
We've done well there, or doing well there, but there's still this gap, between the community and the police. That trust is still. There's a lot that still has to happen.
Of course, for those of you not paying attention, the mayor of Newark we're referring to is actually my brother. Disclosure, Mayor Ras Baraka, who is, I dare say, as I always say, doing an amazing job under adverse conditions, and it's part of what I see as a wave of progressive black mayors, one of whom we have in the city of Los Angeles. Which are continuing to make strides despite this move towards fascism on the federal level.
That's a big word you use. That's important to appreciate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't throw it around lightly. I think, the signs are there. It's not, you don't need a palm reader to figure it out what's happening.
Oh, my goodness. Back in 1969, the Black Panther Party called for a national united front to combat fascism, right? And I was a knucklehead trying to get into the streets back in 1969 for the wrong reasons. And it was the bloodiest year for the Black Panther Party. They lost 28 of their members to state violence, right? And those were the glory days of the late Richard Nixon and all of his criminality. But of course, we definitely are facing, in spite of all the good that good folks like you try to do, right? We are indeed facing a dangerous, reactionary, racist, sexist wave of reaction that is trying to take over state after state, city after city, and
Supreme Court after Supreme Court. Yeah. Oh God, right? What we're talking about is a new attack of a fascist kind and the second overthrow of the second Reconstruction. That's what we're facing if we're not clear. So we need to really be in. Yeah, there's no time to be bystanders. Right. In this particular historical moment. I mean, and to be clear, I always say this is that it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. We're seeing incredible progress on reparations, on general consciousness among people, anti-racism, and at the same time, this insane swerve towards totalitarianism, authoritarianism, and white supremacy that are existing in the same space at the same time. We're talking with Zayid Muhammad, continuing the conversation after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network.
I feel like we're in a war.
President Biden calls it a wave of tragic and senseless shootings.
What happened was unimaginably disgusting and horrifying.
10 people are dead and 38 are wounded in 3 separate mass shootings in the United States over the 4th of July holidays.
Everybody use caution. We still got fire out there trying to shot.
Police in South Carolina say a 69-year-old woman was killed by an alligator while walking her dog on Hilton Head Island.
We heard a whistle blow around about 6 o'clock, screaming everyone to get out.
Beachgoers from New York to Florida are keeping their eyes on the water following shark attacks.
We had 2 sharks spotted off of field number 4, which is just to our east.
And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 news, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? Call the accident guys to speak with a real expert attorney for a free consultation.
Is this the takeover? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was not a happy 4th of July for the Dodgers. Their bullpen gave up 3 runs to Pittsburgh in the 9th inning. The Dodgers end up losing by 2. Pittsburgh and the Dodgers battle again tonight at Dodger Stadium. First pitch at 7:10. The NBA will test its new flopping rule at the Summer League in Las Vegas. The 10-day action for rookies and free agents begins Friday. Players will be on notice to think twice before flopping in an attempt to draw a foul. If a player tries it, the new rule gives the opposing team a free throw attempt and possession of the ball. The player also will get hit with a technical foul. The Lakers and Clippers will have their rookies and free agents in Vegas. Neither team is scheduled to play the San Antonio Spurs and their number 1 pick, Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama will be with the Spurs in Vegas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Zayid Muhammad. He's a poet, he is an actor, and clearly an activist. And I want to talk a little bit about you. We didn't do that. We kind of jumped right into it. Before we do that, though, I do not want to forget, you said you wish that Netflix documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, which you were featured in, had focused on some scholars that it did not focus on. You want to share who those are?
Yeah, I started from the top. Zach Kondo, Baba Zach Kondo, who did the best and the fullest examination of the assassination. His book, Conspiracies Unraveling the Assassination of Malcolm X, is a must-read for anybody studying the subject. William Sales, Bill Sales, who had one of the best Africana study programs in the country when he was the head of Africana Studies at Seton Hall University, and did one of the best political takes on Malcolm's history with his From Civil Rights to Black Liberation, Malcolm X and the OAAU, among a number of others. But there's been a wave of good stuff that has come out on Malcolm that really didn't touch. The filmmakers come out of the school of Manning Marabell, and a lot of us were deeply disappointed, to say the least, of what Manning Marabell did with everything that he had at his disposal when he put out his book on Malcolm. I want to shout out also Jared Ball and Todd Burrows, who did a volume in response to it called The Lie of Reinvention, taking on Manning Marabell's Malcolm X, as well as Herb Boyd, who did a similar volume.
Because that was the name of Marabell's book, right? Malcolm X Reinvented or something like that.
Right, Malcolm X, A Life Reinvention.
A Life Reinvention. And then there was a lot of scholarly pushback to that. Some folks even felt it was a hit job.
That's my position, without a doubt.
And whenever you see a hit job on one of our great scholars, you wonder where the funding comes from. I remember one day when I first started hosting Front Page, and there was a guy that used to call in all the time and tear me down. My dad said, "Remember, Dominique, for some of those folks, that's their job."
Yeah.
It's their actual employment. I'm like, oh yeah, good point. And I think we have to ask that question when it comes to the Manning Marabell saga. But anyway, I wanted to make sure we didn't skip over that, because many times our KBLA delegation, as I like to call folks around here, will follow up and do the reading and track folks down. So I'd like to give that opportunity.
There's somebody I want to shout out in your Los Angeles family who made his word bond, and his name is Torrance Brandon Reese. Torrance came to me several years ago. We're trying to get Crenshaw Boulevard, at least our part of Crenshaw Boulevard, renamed after Malcolm. And that finally happened. had finally happened. So Malcolm was given a special birthday present this May 19th when that happened, and I just wanted to shout Torrance out and his organization,
Family
Soul.
yeah, Family Soul. And they've been working on this for decades, because I remember interviewing him about it when I first came to LA. So, and council member Heather Hutt and the LA City Council for approving that, making that happen, pushing it through. It's good stuff.
Yeah, very proud of Torrance. Yes.
Yeah.
And I say that to say that Malcolm is a transcendent figure.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All of the flaws, the stuff coming out about Alex Haley that's been coming out back and forth over the years. We've always said that the weakness of the autobiography was not Malcolm or anything authentic about him. It was the limitations of the writer and the agenda of the writer and the weakness of the writer for all of his stature.
Well, since you brought it up, what do you mean? What do you mean by the agenda of the writer? I mean, I know that, that you're referring to the discovery of the notes from that Playboy interview, which apparently don't show this, quote of Dr. King disparaging Malcolm X. So when you say the agenda of the writer, meaning Alex Haley, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, Alex was not Malcolm.
Yeah.
Alex had a different background. There's a different orientation for him and for the publishers of the book. That too was intended to be a commercial venture, right? There were 3 chapters that ultimately became not 3 of Malcolm's most important speeches that were withheld from that book, and that wasn't Malcolm's doing. That was Haley's doing, right? There was Haley has his own baggage around what he did with Roots. Right, unfortunately, and the Roots was very important to my generation and the generations preceding us when that hit the airwaves back in the mid 1970s. So he had his limitations, right? But nevertheless, those of us who get Malcolm, and most black men tend to get Malcolm the hard way, usually in a prison cell or on the way to prison. I literally stole his autobiography in a drug transaction when I was a knucklehead on the street. It kept me from going to prison.
Wow.
So Malcolm transcends that. He's always been, the integrity of his authenticity has transcended that, and it will transcend Manning Maribel too.
Yeah. I just wonder what because I wondered when I read about that, I just wondered, why would Alex Haley do that? I mean, you say he's not Malcolm,
exactly.
but most of us aren't Malcolm. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't claim to be Malcolm, but I wouldn't take a quote that could damage him for decades. And you know what I mean? It's like, why would you do that? I don't get it. What am I missing?
And the real story underneath that is that Malcolm, the organizer, was an excellent coalition builder, even when he was in the Nation of Islam, right? When folks try to separate Malcolm, the organizer, from the Nation and the OAAU, he was an organizer all the way through all of those ranks, right? But he was an enormous coalition builder. Everywhere he was building those temples for the nation, he was also building relationships in the notion of the United Front with other black organizations and black entities, including Martin Luther King's. And it's a matter of record, right? So there was no basis for him to do that, right? Martin Luther King, although he was more guarded about his alliances than a Malcolm was, right? There was just no need to do that unless somebody's telling you that might need a tweak for our audience's needs or for our market's needs.
Right. Yeah, I figured it's probably, that was my speculation. Talking with Zayid Muhammad, and when we come forward, we're getting to you. Want to talk about your, your work as a poet. Certainly the intersection of arts and activism, where you live, and how you got there. Your bio calls you a Panther cub. What does that mean exactly? Yeah, a cub of the Black Panther Party, and how you got from there to here. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, yeah, drop it. Okay. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead.
With free battery testing and charging, AutoZone is here to help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
What if I need a new one?
We have the right batteries right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone.
And what if I don't know how to connect it?
No problem. We have a how-to for you at AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Buying your dream home can be exciting, but it might take some sacrifice. But don't worry, Rocket is here to give you a hand. If you buy with Rocket Homes and finance with Rocket Mortgage, you could get up to $10,000 cash toward closing from Rocket Mortgage. That's a big deal. Why not see how Rocket can help you start your legacy? You got this, and Rocket's got you. Only with Rocket. Visit onlywithrocket.com to get started.
For purchase transactions, only must like rate between 331 and 831. Call 8337-ROCKET for conditions and restrictions. Allows Airline to license in all 50 states. MLS Consumer Access. Code number 330.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
You are, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm pleased to be back and on my regular, normal microphone that doesn't have weird, echoey sounds in the background. And here with a guest, Zayid Muhammad, popularly known as Baba Zayid Muhammad. He's an author, 2 volumes of poetry in the works now, The Soul Poems, Offerings of Love and Rage, and We Ride, Malcolm X, the Black Panther Party, and Those Who Dare to Heir. Talk to me about your origin story.
Nobody asked me that.
They didn't warn you about me.
Talk about themselves, you know. I'll pick up from where I gave a little snippet about how I came to Malcolm. Right, I came to Malcolm, in the streets as a petty drug dealer. I stole his autobiography in a drug transaction back in the winter of 1977. I can remember to this very day, and that really took over my life in a very profound way. I tried to first become a Muslim like Malcolm, and I became the Zayid Muhammad person. Right. I found myself at Rutgers University, Newark, a few years later, and I found myself taken with some cubs of your father, Amiri Baraka, right? Newark, where I went to school, was a commuter school. And so a lot of us from the black community were folks who were not necessarily coming straight out of high school. And so there was a cross-section of brothers and sisters who were in what was the Black Organization of Students at the time, who were young people who grew up in the movement under Amiri and Amina, right? And so they had a take on Malcolm that was different from my faith-based take, coming out of the streets. And it would put me in touch with Malcolm's cultural impact. And it was the beginning of that political relationship with your dad. And, of course, your dad, in terms of me as a creative person, as a poet, your father and the late, great Jane Cortez were huge influences on me. I actually didn't start writing until the mid-1980s, seriously. And Jane Cortez was my first workshop. I discovered, and I'm using that word in a liberating way as opposed to the colonizing way, I discovered her book called Fire Spitter, a little chap-sized book at Liberation Bookstore in Harlem back in 1985, and wound up reading that whole book out loud in the store. And the owner, whose name was Tina Muzak, who was a Garveyite, her father was one of the great Garveyites with Mr. Marcus Garvey, said, leave that young man alone. He's doing what we're supposed to be doing in the bookstore. He's reading. So the two of them were huge on me in terms of my own creative self and whatnot. But the 80s was a very dark time. It wasn't the 60s. And trying to organize in the 80s was a difficult lift because folks really just weren't our community had become, was beginning to be besieged by the crack epidemic, and we were really on our heels. It was a right-wing trend in national government, the Reagan-Bush years. It was a very dark time. So during that time, while I was like the young poet in the greater New York area that folks were looking towards, the activism demands actually took over more of what I did publicly than anything else. And I started around that time doing 2 oral history projects. One was around Malcolm, and one was around the Black Panther Party. And the one around the party represented an important shift in my life because I found myself being tasked with doing the first book party for Asada's autobiography in the country. Did that in Newark, New Jersey, to the chagrin of the New Jersey State Police and a lot of our elders in the party from that New York chapter really, grabbed hold of me and said, we need you, little brother. We appreciate what you're doing, and we want you to, really take a look at what we've got, what we've done, and what we're concerned with. And one of the things that really became very prominent in that, in a very painful and painstaking way. Early in our conversation, we talked about how difficult the whole question of police accountability is that a lot of those warriors were COINTELPRO targets and did enormous amounts of time in prison. Some even died in prison. From the West Coast, we lost Chip Fitzgerald in prison, in 51 years in prison. That was a man who was eligible for parole release in the 1970s, right? And I can go on. But in the midst of that, Herman Ferguson, who was in Malcolm's OAAU, came out of exile and had to do time when he came out of exile in Guyana, when he launched the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. Right, I was one of the first ones that he grabbed. Him and the late great Yuri Kuchiyama, who was an international legend, right? Who's got roots in the California area as well. So all of those, so my relationship with the party came out of that mix. The New York chapter. The Ruba bin Wahad is huge to me. When he was released in 1990, we built an organization around Aruba called the Campaign to Free Black and New African Political Prisoners. Then shortly after that, his comrade, Safia Asia Bukhari, who I named my only biological child after, she helped him and her and Herman helped build what was called the Jericho Movement, a national organization devoted specifically to the whole question of political prisoners. So that took on a lot of our work, and it shaped a lot of what I do.
Okay, well, that was well said for somebody that doesn't get asked that question. Tie this into, the Poet Today and the hip-hop radio show that you're part of.
Well, I'll work backwards from your question. The show is a show that is no longer at Rutgers, Newark, unfortunately. And that's some class issues that took place with some leadership succession in that space, unfortunately. And the show is some 14 years old, right? And it was founded by Ed Riley and Jonathan Alston. Ed is a lawyer who has roots in the Nation of Islam and had a very popular hip-hop magazine back in the 1990s. And Jonathan Alston is a teacher in the Newark Public School System who's become a bit of a legend as a national debate coach legend, right? And they started that show. And one of my former soldiers, I was responsible for the new Black Panther Party on the East Coast for a long time, in the last days of Khalid Abdul Muhammad and in the aftermath of his death. One of my former soldiers, Bashir Muhammad Akinyele, was a founder. Right, and when Bashir stepped away from the show several years ago, they asked me to come on, and I came on and brought all of my radical stuff with me. Right, so we have a good time on that show with that. Ironically, the irony of all that, and this is coming back to the performance side of my work to your question, is that when I was at Rutgers as a student, I had a jazz radio show, not a hip hop radio show. So I, as a poet, I would do. I'm more known as a jazz poet than I am someone associated with hip hop. Although my generation, I would say, is responsible for, both traditions getting on one level. In terms of hip hop, 50 years ago, it was our generation that, put legs under hip hop, right? But also that same generation that went into jazz, took jazz into the 21st century, right? The Wynton Marsalises and people like that, right? All that same generation. So jazz brought me to recognize in the place of our music as a part of our worldview, and this is your father's wisdom and his influence for sure on us. That shapes what I do, as a performer. Acting, I didn't come to acting until very late. I'm in my 60s now. I didn't start acting until I was 38 years old.
All right. It's never too late. Talking with Zayid Muhammad. When we come forward, we'll have some final thoughts from him before we pass the microphone off to Avi Bernard, who's in today for Tavis Smiley. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lathan and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, Oh, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them another look. If I go to another institution, I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right, Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas. New voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
And passing the mic to Newark's own Zayid Muhammad, if you don't mind giving us, how to keep up with you on social media, if you have such as that, or a website, and I'd like to impose upon you to perhaps bless us with a poem.
Wow. Okay. I am on Facebook at Baba Zayid, BABA ZAYID, two names. My email is babazayid@gmail.com. Please follow my organization, the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee, also on Facebook. We have a very international Facebook page. In fact, I want to shout out Marlena Abdullah. She was on our last virtual segment that we did a few months ago. And that's the best way to keep up with me. So I was trying to pull something that's not too long because I know you got to watch the time.
Yeah, I know it's tough. I put you in a radio corner here, but we'll do the best we can if you don't mind.
Let me try and do a relatively short one. We started on police brutality. This is a piece that I wrote some 20 years ago based on an old prison work song. It's called "Another Man Is Gone." Another man is gone. 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 Shot him down like a dog. 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 Another man is gone. 'Cause his skin was dry. 'Cause his skin was dry. 'Cause his skin was dry. Shot him down like a dog. Another man is gone. Killers all wore a badge. Killers all wore a badge. Killers all wore a badge. Shot him down like a dog. Another man is gone. They will all walk away. They will all walk away. They will all walk away. Shot him down like a dog. Another man is gone. But it won't be long before we get it on. Say it won't be long before we get it on. Another man is gone. Dominique, thank you for the consideration and your time. Right on to your listeners, right on to your station. Keep doing what you're doing. Whenever I can help you, just give me a holler.
Zayid Muhammad, thank you so much. Avi Bernard is up next in for Tavis Smiley, who's taking a well-deserved vacation. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and